Good morning. Going to do something similar again today, like I did yesterday. So our hand is pocket fives. In this hand, mid position, open raise. I get the cutoff call, small blind called, and then the flop comes out king queen eight. Now the relevant player in this hand is villain two. Villain five is just gonna fold. So the question is, what do I do? Do I c-bet? Is this one of situations where I c-bet? Is this a check call? Is this a check fold? Is this maybe even a check raise? So I built it. So I have my own raise first in range. And then I had to come up with villain's range. And villain's range was a bit harder. So he's playing 23-7 over 61 hands. He does not seem to be overly aggressive. His 3-bet stat is 1 out of 28. When we look at the cutoff, called pre-flop, 2-bet, 60% of the time, 3 out of 5. So he could be kind of loose in the cutoff. He's played 3 out of 7, but we don't have a huge number of hands to form a solid range. So what I did was kind of break it down to this type of range. So 19.3%. I raised it. I think suited aces probably call, suited kings probably call. I mean, it could be, we can look at a much wider range, and I think we will probably do that. We'll adjust the range. But right now, this is kind of the range. I think this is somewhat standard for a pre-flop call from the cutoff for a lot of players, especially against like a mid-position raiser. So here, when we look at what I'm supposed to do, it looks like I am checking 67% of the time. And I think a lot of people probably c-bet this way too much. What kind of hands are we going to be betting? We bet aces, we bet kings, but you note that we're checking queens, we're checking eights, and I think we're checking these trips to really protect our hand, protect our checking range. We don't want to check with only weak hands, because if I check it, we're going to be exploited, very exploited. We're going to be betting with our gut shot draws. So ace jack, ace 10. Looks like we are betting with ace king, but checking ace queen. So we'll bet top pair, but check second pair. And it does. It looks like we are kind of betting top pair and checking that second pair, and I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, if we have second pair, we're either way ahead or way behind in most cases, and we don't really have to worry a whole lot about being outdrawn, because the only card that could really come is that ace. So I think it kind of makes sense. Kind of check the queens, check our lower pairs, our under pairs, our pairs below top pair, and then we are betting straight draws and gut shots. So jack 10, jack 9, 10, 9. He does have, we're going to be checking some of the times with flush draws. So here, I think when we look at our aces, ace, jack of diamonds, ace 10 of diamonds, we're going to be checking. I bet those are going to be for check raises. Yeah, ace, jack, ace 10 of diamonds. So like the royal flush draw, we're mostly checking ace 2. Looks like we're betting. Ace 2 of diamonds, ace 3 of diamonds, ace 4 of diamonds, ace 5 of diamonds. So it looks like we are consistently betting these lower nut flush draws, ace 5, ace 4, ace 3, ace 2, but then checking most of the other ones. Pocket 2s, pocket 3s. Looks like doing it with a diamond. So if we have a diamond, it makes it less likely that they have a diamond. So I guess 2s and 3s we're somewhat betting, but checking everything else. So okay, so I had 5s. I'm glad with the check. So let's check this out. So we check, and then villain has the opportunity to bet or check. It looks like a lot of his betting range is going to be a top pair plus. Sometimes bets with middle pair, but GTO says never bet with a weak pair. It does say somewhat bet with the ace high. Somewhat bet with the ace high. Yeah. Okay. But I think a lot of these have like a diamond. So flush draws, betting open enders, betting gut shots a lot. 2-card backdoor flush draws. I think that's kind of interesting. We're probably going to be betting those. So we're betting 38% of the time on some of our draws, or 2-pair plus. All right, so in this hand, villain does bet, and he bets half pot. So now it comes back to what do we do? So look at that. The set queens and eights we're gonna raise. So that's definitely a check raising range. 2-pair has a check raising range, but I think we're betting 2 pairs most of the time. So you can see like king queen here, we're betting it more than 50% of the time. Check, he bets. All right. 10-9, the diamonds. Looks like we are raising. Jack 10, we're raising. So those times we checked with those. What I wanted to check were these. So remember, we had ace 10 and ace jack of diamonds. We had checked, and I thought perhaps these are going to be used for check raises. Ace 10 is definitely used for check raises. Ace jack is not. Ace 8 is used for a check raise, but ace 9 is not. So ace 8 of diamond, we've got bottom pair with flush draw, but ace 9, we don't have any pair. And like all the other aces, we don't have any pair. Well, no. So we are. Some of the time, the nut flush, we are. If we checked with the ace x diamonds, we're going to be raising it. Exception is ace 7, we call. Ace 9, we call. Ace 8 raises, ace 10 aces. Ace jack we call too. Okay, so we are pretty tight. So it looks like our trips are going to be balanced by these draws, by these nut flush draws. All right, so we don't have a turn, so we can't really judge what happens. So let's say we bet. What happens if villain raises? And I think this is going to be most likely a situation. I bet. All right, and then villain's play is to call with most of his hands. He's going to be calling with a lot of his pairs, a lot of his ace highs, middle pairs, top pair. So he's going to be calling with a wide range. And then I think we can kind of pick out, let's just say, a dry board. So a 2 of hearts. So now I'm going to be betting a little bit more frequency, and that should generate more folds. All right, so let's try this. Let's say that was 19.3. Let's say this is a pretty wide player. He likes to play hands. Let's say he's playing more of these hands because he's in position. All right, so we're going to build tree. We are going to run the solver, and we'll come back when it is done. All right, solver's done. Let's check it out. So if villain is much wider, so we played 40%, 41%, and we removed those raising range. Now it looks like we are c-betting at a higher frequency. We're c-betting at about 50%, probably because he has a whole lot of hands that should be folding. Now we are betting aces, we're betting kings. Still eights and jacks, or eights and queens, looks like we are checking. We're using those for protection, still betting pairs. So I think overall, I think against a looser opponent, we're probably just going to be a little bit more liberal in our raises or in our C bets, but I think the trends still persist. Maybe bet a few more with our backdoor flush draws, bet with our regular flush draws, maybe bet with our straight draws a little bit. I mean, if we have, let's say 6-5, we have possibility of a backdoor straight as well. Weak backdoor straight, but possibility. All right, so if we check and then villain bets again, looks like we're still raising. Now we're raising like ace jack of diamonds, ace 10 of diamonds. Yeah, we're raising with a higher frequency at this point, but still with our flush draw, nut flush draws and trips. Oh, it looks like open-ended straight draws against this player. So I think that was interesting. So I don't think we were check raising with open-ended last time. He had a tighter range, but now we are. So interesting. All right, so this is hand number one. I do have a second hand. Let me get it loaded up and run, and then we'll take a look at it. All right, second hand. We got jacks in mid position. We have an under the gun limper, and it's a limper, and he is the player that we're going to look at. He's played 22-0. He's got 41 hands. He's probably pretty tight. His VPIP in early positions 13%. His limps is he's basically limped first in. I'm not sure what happened. Probably a call, maybe. Yep, call a 2-bet. So by far he is going to be pretty tight, and he's probably going to be skewed towards these middle drawy type hands, maybe like pocket pairs, maybe a suited connector. I would expect a player like this who's playing in a tighter to have a pretty solid range. Now this is a raise. I treat this as a raise first in, and jacks is definitely a hand that we can play. So I raised it up to 5 big blinds. Could have probably gone up to 6. But raise to 5, kind of put pressure on some of these looser players. If they call, hey, you know what, they're calling with worse. So small blind calls, limper calls, and let's get the ranges. So my range is this, pretty much. Out of position, this limpers I set up as this 9.35. That might still be a little tight since he's played like 13%, but remember, we don't have a whole lot of hands, but you know, I think it kind of meets the guidelines. He limp calls a raise. I think that's pocket pair, hoping to hit trips, maybe suited connectors, suited aces, maybe these king jack, queen jacks, you know, suited broadways. So I have that, and then the board is queen 7-7, 2 diamonds. And villain's going to lead into us for half pot. And I think that kind of throws me off. So when we look at this, villain is supposed to be checking, you know, almost 100% of the time. Almost 100% of the time with this range. There's nothing that he should really be betting. All right. So when he does bet, and when we look at like, what is he betting? I'm finding nines, ace 4, ace 2, king jack. Some of these pairs. So small percentage of 2s, small percentage of 4s. My gut tells me that we have a pair like jacks, 10s, 9s, or something like a queen 10, queen 9 type hand. Based on the ranges, you know, top pair weak kicker, I only have queen jack, and I don't know what he's going to play with this, but I don't really think he has 7s. I don't think he has a 7. I think this is a case where he has one of these pairs. So he did bet, and then question is, what do we do? And I think we're gonna have to fix the tree so that he always bets like 100%. And I don't even know if we can do that. But if he was playing GTO, I am raising quads, I'm raising trips, which is interesting. I'm raising a full house. It looks like I can raise it with the ace jack of diamond, or with the ace of diamonds and the jack. It looks mostly that I am just going to be calling with a couple of raises, raising with my premium hands, and then raising kind of as bluffs and as some draws. But that's good to know. I am supposed to call, and I think we're calling because he is raising as some bluff, so we kind of have to balance against that. But what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't have those bluffs? What can we do? So he leads out 50% of the time, and let's see what we can do here. I'm going to pause this and take a look. All right, so I messed around. I figured out how I can manually add some of these. So what I'm going to do is say that his bet is this. He bets with these: queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s. All right, along with any of the other GTO things. And then let's run our solver. All right, let's try it out. All right, so now he's leading for half pot here. And what do? This changes it big time. So if he is going to be betting with these hands 100% of the time, which I think a player like this that's going to be donking is probably doing that, now it changes our play. Now we are raising with a lot of broadways. With basically all of our strong hands we're raising. And I think this is a mixture of value. So aces and kings and our value. Jacks are going to be value. If we have jacks, it's less likely he has jacks. I think 10s are going to be value too, because he could have 9s and 8s. We're raising queens. Our top pair queens. We're raising things like ace king, ace jack. Where a Broadway card's going to help us. King jack, king 10. Raising all of those. We're raising our 7s again. We're raising our 7s and so forth. So yeah, this is looking like this is definitely going to be a raise for us. So once we raise, then we can look at villain. Villain should be folding 8s and 9s. He should be calling 10s, jacks, queens. And let's say he does call. So now he's supposed to be checking, and then we could bet. Our jacks would still bet for a 2 of hearts. And then he's going to be calling, basically. And then if he checks again, then I just programmed it because none of them got to the river. But let's change this. Let's say this was a diamond to a diamond. Does that change anything? He checks. No, it still looks like we bet our jacks again. Looks like we're betting because he could be calling with 10s. What happens if we had an ace of diamonds? We're still betting on, wow, we're betting 100% on the ace of diamonds. It's a very good card for us. We're mostly betting with the ace of clubs. Oh, looks like we are checking though half the time. So checking when we have the ace, when we have the jack of diamonds. So we would be betting here. Well, that's interesting. So in this hand, I folded. So I think this is definitely a mistake based on how we're running it, based on his play. Does it change? I thought it kind of made. I think there's a difference here because we were 3-way instead of heads up. but probably not. I think my hand was strong enough. I think this was an overly tight fold. Not sure why I folded to begin with, but I think this is probably an overly tight fold versus a player that's going to be donking. And he donks the flop 33% of the time. So I think that kind of matches his limp call, and then he leads. I'm sure I folded because I thought this is typical of Queen X, Queen Jack, Queen 10, Queen 9. But if he also does this with Jacks, 10s, 9s, and 8s, it would be easy. Now, let's say this was a 4 of hearts, and now he bets again. So his GTO strategy is to bet all of those. But what happens if we change it? So if he bets with queens, let's check that out. This tree is going pretty quick. So he bets with queens, and then it looks like I'm folding. So I think in this place we would call. Well, no, we would raise. We would raise our jacks versus the donk. If he raises us, what is he raising with? Oh, these incredibly small. These. Yeah, if he raises us, we can probably just fold the hand. But more than likely he'll call, and then if he bleeds out into us again, then I think we can fold. What happens if this was like an ace of clubs? Oops. Sorry, ace of clubs. Let's change that. What if that was an ace of clubs? Oh man. Let's change that. Ace of clubs, and he leads into me again. There. Now, once he leads into me again, looks like we are still raising. Still raising a lot. That's interesting. So we're raising all of those, and he calls, and then the ace of clubs he bets, and we're raising. I bet we're raising with our top pair, because he's got the queens. What happens if we change that to, let's say 9 of clubs? Calls a 9 of clubs, and then bets the jacks. Let's try this out. Here we go. We bets the jacks, and now, yeah, we're still. It kind of looks like if we raise him, he calls, and then he leads again. It looks like we're folding our jacks. It looks like we are going. We're raising our queens. Queens, good kicker. We're raising our overpairs. We're raising, of course, our sevens again. So, all right. So I did learn how to use this. So how did I play overall here? I think both hands were mistakes. Hand number 1 with the 5s, I should have called instead of folding. On the flop, on here, I should have called. Actually, no, I should have raised this using my assumption. What if his range is much wider? So, whoops. So I did do all of these. What happens if he has? I don't think most players play tricks. What if it's something like that? Let's try that out. All right, so we still have him out of position betting. But we are going to have to adjust this. So I don't think he plays GTO. I think he's playing something like that still with his bets along with all the other ones. We'll add the offsuits as well. Yeah, I think that's what they're gonna play. So let's run this over, check it out. All right, so he bets, and then it still looks like we are raising. But in this case now, since he has a wider range pre-flop, now we have a call. So versus a pretty tight range, a tight weak range, we raise, but a looser. If he has a looser range, we're gonna call with our jacks. All right. So interesting. Learned how to adjust our tree. So hopefully you like this. Might go back to looking at a range versus range, or might continue looking at some of these flop and turn decisions. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. If you like this, look tomorrow for another.